Over in the United Kingdom, Prince William has practically marched through a political battlefield, edging out his father King Charles to push for an Act of Parliament at Westminster, one designed to eject not just Prince Andrew, Beatrice, and Eugenie, but also Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie, and Lilibet from their royal titles. And, of course, Meghan Markle's ongoing disaster turns out to be even more dramatic than anyone imagined. It all begins with a whisper, the kind that spreads faster than British rain and absolutely refuses to die. Rumors about tension between the palace and the Sussexes had been floating for months, but this time it wasn't harmless gossip. Insiders themselves were talking. And what they were saying was enough to send Meghan Markle into a full volcanic eruption. Because apparently, when Prince William eventually becomes king, Meghan's Duchess title, that precious Duchess of Sussex label she's built her entire post-royal persona around, was dangling by a single, worn-out thread. And not only hers. Harry's title, even little Lilibet's courtesy title, was reportedly being debated behind tightly sealed palace doors. And when Meghan caught a hint of it, she didn't just toss her hair and ignore it. She launched into full emergency mode, calling lawyers, demanding meetings, and, according to sources, making a threat no one inside the palace had ever expected. But let's rewind for a second to the spark that lit this entire powder keg. Apparently, Meghan had been working overtime behind the scenes for extra recognition, more spotlight, and stronger acknowledgement of her Duchess status. And despite being out of royal duty for ages, she was still urging brands, media outlets, and even public institutions to use her complete title, as if it were legally mandatory. This wasn't exactly new behavior, but it had begun irritating people in ways that became harder and harder to ignore. Then came the podcast rumors, the interviews, the red carpets, every public appearance wrapped like a shiny Duchess-themed product. Eventually, the palace reached its limit. The idea on the table: strip Meghan, Harry, Archie, and Lilibet of their royal titles. Prince William, increasingly protective of the monarchy's stability, was reportedly done with the constant drama. He'd watched the headlines, the Netflix chaos, the Oprah aftermath, and now he was encouraging advisors to examine whether the Sussexes should keep their titles if they weren't upholding any duty. Sounds harsh, maybe, but many argued it was overdue. And things only escalated further. When Meghan learned that William and senior advisors were researching legal paths to remove the titles, she didn't panic, she erupted. To her, losing the title wasn't just a bruised ego, it was an attack on her brand, her Hollywood leverage, her relevance. That title was the last string she could pull to redirect the world's attention. She demanded explanations. She demanded calls. She even demanded Harry do something, as if he could stomp into the palace and stop the future king from making a constitutional decision. Then came her ultimate threat. According to insiders, she told her legal team to explore filing a lawsuit if the titles were removed, specifically naming William. Imagine the spectacle, a duchess suing a future king, dragging centuries of monarchy through the tabloids. But here in the UK, while William was winning his political push with King Charles, the public wasn't exactly cheering for Meghan. Instead of defending her, thousands flooded the internet with one blunt message: she would lose. Not metaphorically, legally. Titles aren't property. They're privileges granted by the crown. And whatever the crown bestows, the crown can absolutely take back, especially with the heir supporting it. Commenters were merciless. Some said she'd be laughed out of court. Others argued that suing the monarchy would only strengthen William's reasoning that the titles were causing chaos. Brits were brutally straightforward, saying the cleanup was overdue. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Harry wasn't reacting like Meghan at all. He wasn't shouting, writing frantic emails, or pacing the room. He was quiet, defeated, almost hollow. Because where Meghan viewed the titles as power, Harry saw them as the last remnants of his past life, the world he left but never fully escaped. Those titles reminded him of his mother, of his military years, of a version of himself untouched by endless media wars. Insiders said he sat in silence for hours processing the idea that the institution he once loved was considering cutting him loose. Even Lilibet's title being dragged into the situation hit him harder than expected. Suddenly, he was trapped between a furious wife gearing up for war and a family convinced they'd reached their limit with him. For the first time, he wasn't sure where he belonged. Meghan's fury made him anxious. William's resolve made him guilty. and the public reaction left him exposed. In that suffocating uncertainty, he realized he might be facing the biggest identity crisis of his life, one deeper than when he first walked away from the UK. And so, as talk of formally stripping Meghan Markle of her title intensified, Harry sank even further inward. This wasn't about Netflix deals, nor palace aids, nor headlines. It was about identity, belonging, and the frail thread connecting him to the life he once knew, one he both resented and missed. While his former world debated whether to close its doors on him forever, Meghan reacted in the exact opposite way. The moment she heard William was leading discussions about removing the titles, she unleashed a frenzy: lawyers, advisors, phone calls, media contacts. Her anger was sharp and calculated, not emotional. People around her said she repeated one line over and over: "They won't take what I earned." Strange, considering royal titles aren't earned, they're granted. But Meghan felt every hardship she'd endured justified keeping it. Meanwhile, William, criticized or not, was robotic when it came to safeguarding the monarchy. Calm, focused, and strategic, he believed the chaos surrounding the Sussexes had become a liability. When word reached him that Meghan was threatening a lawsuit, he didn't rage, he sighed. Suing the monarchy was like suing the nation itself. It would shatter what little connection Harry still had. To William, it simply proved the titles had spiraled into full-scale problems. Outside the palace, the internet was ablaze. Legal experts weighed in. Scholars joined the debate. Ordinary people voiced unfiltered opinions. The verdict was unanimous. Meghan had no legal chance. Courts don't touch royal titles. They never have. They likely never will. And every time someone explained this, backlash against her intensified. Discussions became debates. Debates turned to open ridicule, not always out of hatred, but because the legal premise was beyond flimsy. Even supporters struggled to defend it. Meanwhile, Harry stood in the eye of the storm, caught in chaos he never wanted, unable to escape any side. He was caught in the ultimate tug-of-war, the woman he adored versus the family he still secretly cared about. Meghan Markle saw the titles as power and prestige. William saw them as obligations and trust. Two entirely different realities colliding, leaving Harry the human rope in a very public tug-of-war. The pressure crushed him gradually. Sleep became rare. He went silent at dinners, snapped at tiny annoyances, ignored calls from the UK. Even his usually cheerful demeanor around the kids dimmed. This wasn't anger, it was soul-deep exhaustion, the kind that burrows in and refuses to leave. Insiders said he kept asking the same question nightly: how did we get here? Not angrily, but defeatedly. Leaving royal life, he'd imagined peace, a fresh start, freedom. Instead, every attempt to escape pulled him deeper into headlines, into conflict, into the exact chaos he thought he'd left behind. And now, even Lilibet's title was on the battlefield, a line he never imagined would be crossed. One evening, while Meghan vented to advisors about lawsuits and optics, Harry quietly stepped into the Montecito backyard, perched on the porch, face buried in his hands. He wasn't strategizing. He wasn't plotting. He was thinking about his mother, how she would have handled this, how she would guide him not as a prince, but as a man. He missed her. The ache was sharp, raw, piercing. Meanwhile, at Adelaide Cottage, William paced, listening to advisors relay public reaction. No smiles, no celebration. Stripping titles wasn't a victory, it was a grim necessity. Necessary decisions rarely feel good. His one question: will it hurt the children? The answer: legally no. Emotionally maybe. That sealed it. Any move would be slow, surgical, calculated, not revenge, not drama, but a constitutional measure William believed the monarchy might need. But none of this mattered to Meghan. To her, it was a targeted humiliation, a public insult. Constitutional law? Forget it. She thought in terms of respect, image, control, power. She doubled down. Legal letters, statements, contingency plans, Hollywood contacts, media allies, every angle covered. The narrative had to be hers. Injustice, not correction. But one person didn't sign on: Harry. He didn't want war, lawsuits, PR strategies. He wanted peace. He wanted to shield his kids from a constitutional earthquake. Most of all, he wanted to stop feeling pieces of himself evaporate with every headline. And here in the UK, with William winning the parliamentary push with King Charles to strip Prince Andrew, Beatrice, Eugenie, and the Sussexes of titles, the tension at home became palpable. Meghan's frustration was volcanic, Harry's silence suffocating. Same crisis, opposite reactions, one charging forward, the other retreating. At one point, Meghan told Harry, "If we don't stand up, they'll walk all over us." And quietly, Harry replied, "I'm tired of fighting." That line hit differently. Even Meghan paused, because beneath the chaos, the public drama, Harry was breaking. Not at her, not at William, not even at the monarchy, but at the relentless cycle that had consumed his life. He wasn't a chess piece, a strategist, or a warrior. He was a son clinging to the last fragments of identity while the world demanded he pick sides he didn't want. Losing the title didn't anger him. It devastated him, deeply, profoundly. Not because he loved the privilege, but because it symbolized severing ties with the boy he used to be. The boy behind his mother's coffin. The boy saluting troops. The boy believing his family place was safe. Stripped titles would erase that boy forever. And so, as public pressure mounted, Meghan plotted her next move, and William fortified his stance behind palace walls. Harry stood in the middle, emotionally stretched, mentally drained, drowning quietly in a war he never chose. Because this isn't about titles. It's about a man torn between love and legacy, past and present, two worlds that refuse to meet. And as the shadow of losing his Duchess title looms, Harry knows one thing: no title, gained or lost, can ever heal the wounds this fight has left.